for is episode 435.
Woo.
As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human Chris Saturn.
Hi, Justin.
Hi, Saturn. Hello.
You right there? Did you just reboot?
No, I was looking at, in our housekeeping, I just put a bunch of cat emojis, and I was looking at them and thinking about them in the middle of my sentence. I might have drank a bunch of coffee right before we did the show. And I don't know if anyone knows what I'm like on caffeine, but it's this, basically, is this.
It's this.
This is
It's
pretty
going
much
to be
it.
this for the next hour or two. Actually, for like an hour and a half, it'll be this, and then you'll crash.
Yeah. And then I got to go eat sugar between the shows to get stimulated for the next episode.
Right.
Guys here.
Yes.
He's going to be at the end of the segment for his after party segment because we realized we haven't done one of those in a long time.
Right.
So here he is. That's
And
the song I wrote.
also, additional housekeeping. I'm a little sick, so if I sound weird, sorry.
Yeah. If Saturn sounds weird, then it's his fault.
Yeah.
And nobody asked him to record tonight. He insisted upon himself.
That's true.
And so here we are.
I just hate breaking schedules.
Is that it? Is that what it is?
Part of it, yeah. I really like routine.
My week.
Yes,
To the shock of nobody, I've been delving into coffee and coffee-related activities. I've
What is that?
For people that don't know, I used to work at a coffee shop many years ago now. It would have been 12 years ago now.
Yeah.
And when I worked there, I had great coffee all the time because I worked at a coffee shop and
Had access to coffee equipment.
I had the coffee machine. I could do it. It was great.
Yeah.
And then after I quit, my wife and I were like, hey, we should get an espresso machine for at home because we have become accustomed to this lifestyle. And we're not going to go to Starbucks because as far as we know, they don't yet serve coffee. Maybe one day they will. They have many beverages that are coffee adjacent. But as far as I can tell, I've never had any.
Starbucks fancy mud water?
And I'm not even one of those people that's like, it's really just a dessert, not a coffee. I don't drink your coffee however you want, put however much fucking whipped cream or sugar or syrups. I don't give a shit. Yeah. But the coffee is this nasty. It's nasty coffee. Like, I don't care that they're putting whipped cream on it. Whatever. You do you. Anyway, and we looked into it and we were like, we can't afford that. And we just never looked into it again.
Yeah.
And over the years, we've kind of drifted away from the world of quality coffee. And I think my lowest point was we were drinking Dunkin' Donuts pre-ground coffee out of a bag.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I don't see what's wrong with that.
This is pretty low. The depths to which we've fallen. And I know I've talked about it on the show, but a coffee shop near my house opened up, and it kind of got me sort of looking back into the world of specialty coffee and how it's changed in the decade or so since I've been like really engaged with it. Mm-hmm. And my wife has a bonus coming up at work, her first bonus at her new job. And we were like, hey, let's do the coffee thing. We want to do the coffee thing. Let's look into it. And man, let me tell you, it has changed so much since I was into coffee. It is like, it's nuts out there. There's so much new stuff, so much new science, so many new techniques. Like everything I used to know about espresso is basically antiquated and not useful anymore. Like it's so different. It's amazing how much the landscape has changed in 10 years in the coffee world. So I've forgone my Mr. Coffee. Yeah. I've picked up a high-end drip machine. I've started using an AeroPress. I've been looking into single origin beans. I've been buying from local roasters. I've just been doing the whole coffee thing.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty fun. It's been a good fun time getting to drink lots of good coffee.
Have you found anything that stacks up to the chock full of nuts that I usually get?
I think I could recommend some things that definitely have a more full-bodied flavor than chock full of nuts.
Oh.
But all this to say that I've been kind of digging into where coffee has gone in the last 10 years while I've been not paying attention to it, and it's been a fun time. Oddly enough, I'm drinking volumetrically less coffee than I was before. Because it used to be that, we had started using a Texas brand of coffee and grinding it like a year ago or 2 years ago. And when I was making that, I was making a big giant pot of it, and I was drinking maybe 32 ounces of coffee in a day. Yeah. Like 2 really giant mugs of it.
Sure.
But now I'm brewing much smaller amounts of coffee because one, the coffee's more expensive. So I'm not just, I'm not going to leave half a pot sitting over there and undrank because I paid good money for this coffee.
Right.
But then also just like the brew methods I'm using generate smaller amounts. Like an AeroPress doesn't make a ton of coffee at once. So volume-wise, I'm drinking less coffee. I'm less caffeinated than I was. But now I'm spacing it out throughout the entire day. So I'm just moderately caffeinated at all times.
Nice.
All day long. But yeah, that's what I've been. A lot of my hours have been embedded in the coffee world. I have purchased an espresso machine.
Nice.
I did a lot of research. I picked one up. It will be here next week, and I'm excited to delve into that world.
We had one at my last office, and it was great. Unfortunately, it was the kind that used these little. They weren't quite pods. They were like the pods from the Keurig machines, but they were
flat and very flat and round.
Yeah, those. And
were they like a little sachet, like a little paper packet kind of thing?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I forget what those are called, but yeah, they're basically pre-ground espresso, pre-dosed into these little packets, and you put it into a pressurized basket in your portafilter.
And it was because it came from the same place as our office coffee. The people that would deliver the coffee and the supplies and everything would just bring us refills of it. Unfortunately, too many people thought that you could just jam as many of those little packets in there as you wanted.
No, you need the headroom over them or it will not work.
So it would break constantly.
Yeah.
But after COVID happened, it seems all those people went away and the people that were left didn't use it at all. So it was me and my boss and one other guy were the only ones that would ever use it until they eventually took it away from us because we didn't want to pay for it anymore. But it was great.
Obviously, like, you want fresh ground beans, but I think in an office environment where you cannot trust people to grind their own beans without just destroying the break room.
Yes.
I don't see any problem in this I didn't even know those pre-dosed espresso packets existed. I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
And just so much. Because traditionally you couldn't do that because it would run through your machine too fast, but that's why they use these special pressurized portafilter baskets. It's fascinating science going on.
If you can't trust people to not microwave fish, you can't trust people.
Probably should not trust them with a coffee machine. Yeah. But yeah, I've been doing that. It has led me down some weird rabbit holes. I'm now this might be the craziest part is I now have recipes for water and I'm mixing my own water. So that's
how many hydrogens do you put in it?
Well, it comes with the hydrogens and the oxygens already in place, right?
So that's water.
Well, so the idea is like water in different places is different, right?
Uh-huh.
And coffee's like 99% water.
True.
So if I'm buying coffee beans from you and you're like, yeah, we made this coffee and it tastes really good. Well, it tastes really good with the water you're making it with.
Right.
But my water's different. It's different hardness and different amounts of minerals and
That's
stuff like that.
because you got it out of the toilet.
And I scoop it up out of the toilet and I throw it in my AeroPress.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that you want to adjust these variables.
I see.
So that then I can adjust my water to be closer to something that the person making my beans might be using. And there are some standard specifications of water that people try to adhere to so that you can kind of normalize the experience. Like if you ever, I don't know, maybe you have you ever like bought a bag of coffee from somewhere and they're like, oh yeah, it tastes like this. And you're like, that didn't taste fucking anything like that.
No.
Okay, well, it's happened to me, and I'm like, I don't taste that at all. And then I never really gave thought to the fact that 99% of the beverage is made from a different tasting solution. So, of course, it's gonna taste a little different.
I don't know why, but the phrase, the guy making my beans, just sounds hilarious to me.
Yeah, I'm a bean guy. I got a bean guy. You don't have a bean guy, Saturn?
I do not.
Where do you get your beans?
I just buy them at the grocery store.
It is kind of weird. I have even at my local rural grocery store. Yeah. I went looking at the specialty coffee selection just to see because normally supermarket coffee you would assume it's not very good,
right?
And there's coffee on my local Brookshire's that has like roast dates on it, like it's single origin with roast dates, and I'm like, man, this is really
does that too.
Yeah, I've really not been paying attention to this stuff because like that's nuts to me. Right. So anyway, been doing the coffee thing. Been drinking a lot of coffee, making a lot of coffee, and spending a lot of time mixing jugs of water together. Realistically, I wanted to buy a filtration system so that I could effectively make distilled water, because I use it a lot for like neti pots and humidifiers and steam therapy machines, stuff like that. And it's just a nice side effect that now that I have water with nothing in it, I can then remineralize it for a coffee purpose.
You just take all the minerals out and then put different minerals in.
That is exactly. I add in my bicarbonate and my magnesium sulfate, and mix
fluoride.
my and I add the fluoride back in. Just squirt some toothpaste in there and just
There you
shake it
go.
up real good.
Perfect. Yeah.
Gets it a nice, fresh, minty water flavor. Anyway,
What was that cinnamon flavored toothpaste from back in the day? Do they still make that?
I can only assume they do, but awful. It's awful. Really, any non-minty toothpaste always kind of grossed me out.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter likes the bubblegum toothpaste. I'm like, I don't know, man. I just don't want my mouth to taste like bubblegum when it just doesn't feel clean when it's not minty to me.
I don't remember which one they used to make when I was a kid. It was the toothpaste. It was the 3 different colors: the white, the blue, and the red.
Yeah.
And it came in a big pump for kids.
Yes.
And it had googly eyes on the front of it. I don't remember what that brand is.
Yeah, she likes the sparkle. That's the blue with the sparkles in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, the amount of like available equipment and science to consumers at the consumer level. Because when I was looking 10, 12 years ago, like there was nothing remotely like most of the stuff available. Like the science and the technology in the equipment for a lot of the stuff was not readily available anyway to consumers. And so it's just fascinating to see how the consumer coffee market has changed so swiftly.
Nice.
But anyway, it's a thing I drink every single day, and I thought maybe I should put some more thought and care into it. That would be a nice, fun thing to improve an aspect of my life that I'm living through. Yeah. What have you been doing, Saturn?
Hey,
Hi, hello.
Did you know the show is about video games?
It is? Are you sure? Because let me tell you about these Kenyan beans I've been drinking.
For new listeners who are just joining us, we normally talk about video games.
We do, yeah. Coffee
we just got distracted.
Adjacent.
We got distracted by coffee and toothpaste, but we're back.
Here we are.
I've been playing the new Alan Wake.
Yeah.
And it is
Alan
nice.
Wake
it is
2, 3,
yes,
4.
2,
I don't know.
2 just came out.
Yeah. Great.
It is spooky. It is scarier than the first game, which I like. It's got more of a horror vibe to it and less of a campy, made for basic cable horror comedy vibe going on.
I like that.
But it still has some comedy to it, which I appreciate. I'm always a fan of any kind of horror that has a sense of humor, that understands the whole tension release cycle, that sometimes when you're releasing it, it's a good point to make a few jokes in there just to make sure people completely release the tension before you go right back into it.
Yeah.
And it does a good job of that. I just got to a point in the game that was completely ridiculous and over the top and dumb and hilarious, while still being a little unnerving. Also, it's possibly the first game that I've played that, like, as I'm playing it, I'm like, oh, this is a different console generation than the PS4 and Xbox One.
Oh, we finally crossed that threshold.
But I'm not to the point where I think there's no way this could run on the old systems. Just the version that I am playing clearly is slightly different than that.
Clearly looks better.
Yeah, it does look a little bit better. It loads fast. It's nice. It's a good experience. I've been enjoying it, and I am trying my best to not spoil it because the story is the only like interesting enough part to go to in a game like that.
Yeah.
So I do encourage people who are even mildly interested in horror or if you just want to see fancy new tech, it is an impressive looking game.
Is that on Game Pass? Is it first party?
No.
I don't know why in my head I thought it was.
The first one was published by Microsoft back on 360.
Oh, okay. That's what
Remedy has teamed up with Epic to publish it on everything this time.
Oh,
which means on PC.
Epic Games.
Yep, on PC it's EGS exclusive. Also on PC it has ludicrous requirements.
Oh.
Like I think it wants a 3070 or higher.
Oh.
For 60 frames per second.
Good God.
Yeah, it's pretty steep requirements wise,
Kinda
but
smacks of poor optimization.
right. But fortunately, the version on my Xbox plays just fine.
It's almost like they made it for the console first and the PC port was an afterthought, but that never happens, right? That's not a thing that ever
Right?
happens all
Well,
the time.
The weird thing is the first game in the series was made for console port first and then ported to PC, but the PC port was great. Had
Yeah.
tons of ability to tweak things and optimize it however you wanted. And supposedly this one has a lot of ways to tweak it and get it to play on lower hardware. Just it doesn't look great when you do.
Yeah. Let's do the news.
Okay.
First- Great. First up, Nintendo patent shows a Switch-like device with a detachable second screen. The internet then promptly lost its mind. I will give credit to Eurogamer because they reported on this and said this probably is not the Switch 2.
Right. Or potentially not even anything.
Yeah, they were like, lots of companies patent lots of things.
Yes.
We have no reason to believe this is the Switch 2. Now,
Right. And Nintendo themselves have come out and said that there is nothing to this current rumor that is not related to new hardware they're currently working on.
And for people that don't know this, companies patent shit all the time.
Yes.
All the time.
Like Sony's patent for that TV where you have to shout at it to turn off the advertisement.
What was it that it made them shout?
McDonald's.
Like, McDonald's! And they threw their little arms up in the little drawing.
Yeah. Shout
So-
McDonald's to continue.
One, neat idea. What a
Yeah.
neat idea. Two, probably never going to be a thing you can buy.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it out there.
I don't know that I would buy it.
Oh, I totally would. I love the dual screen tech. I love it. It's fantastic. The games that use it well, I struggle to not have it. It's
Yeah, well, that's the problem though, is that when games are designed around it, it becomes almost impossible to port them elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so you're stuck playing things on these dual screen handhelds and nothing else ever.
Now, it's certainly, I have that same complaint. I wish they were more easily ported elsewhere, but I still love it. I love having that second screen with, I can put all my numbers down there and get all the fucking numbers out of my way. I hate numbers. I don't want to put them on my number screen. That's what it's for. And then I can just look at pretty pictures. Layoffs at Bungie, which sucks. That sucks.
Yeah.
And I had read the details of this about what's going on with it. I can't remember what it was, but basically it wasn't Sony.
Yeah,
Because the immediate knee jerk was, well, fuck you, Sony. But apparently it's Bungie mismanagement from within.
And what's unfortunate is when the Sony acquisition happened, Bungie management made a statement about how this is great for us. There will be no layoffs in the immediate future or near future because of this. And then they still screwed up enough that they had to do it anyway.
Apparently they blew a huge amount of money on a new HQ.
Yeah, I did read about that.
So that had caused problems. Mysterious Mysterious Murasame Castle, Devil World, and Castlevania Legends have all been added to Nintendo Switch Online.
2 of those are good games.
Which Castlevania is Castlevania Legends?
That is the 3rd Game Boy game, the one that has been retconned out of the series franchise.
Oh, no. Well, good luck.
Yeah.
Atari purchases Digital Eclipse in one of the most distressing bits of gaming news in years.
Yeah. Now, on the one hand, the current head of Atari seems to care. He seems to care about video games and preservation and proper emulation and video game history and all that kind of stuff. And that's
on the other hand, we're just on the tail end of Atari Coin and Atari Casinos.
Right. So we don't know when the current guy will be removed and replaced with someone else who wants to go back into the casino industry.
Yeah. Or maybe they want to make another VCS. You guys remember the VCS? It happened.
It's still technically available.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Because they never sold through them. Also, there's that new Atari coming out, which looks really cool. I think we talked about it.
The little mini or classic.
Yeah, the one with HDMI output that plays original carts. That's neat, but I'm still concerned about Digital Eclipse becoming a part of that.
Yeah, of all the companies to get scooped up, Digital Eclipse is you don't want to see that.
That's a shame.
MAME has added support for LJN video art in case you
Why?
hate yourself and video games
Right?
and want to exacerbate that situation. Again, we've said it before on the show. I love that the preservation is happening.
Yes.
It is important to the
Right.
hobby. But man,
At one point, you have to ask yourself, is this a thing that needs to be preserved?
yeah. Sega Sammy says their first super game will release by March 2026. Now, was this their initiative to like make better games?
No, it's supposed to be like one like grander than AAA game that they are.
Yeah, that's what I
making.
mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, this is our we're making quadruple A games now.
Right. Well, just the at least the one. At least the one.
I can't fucking wait to see what watered down Sonic Adventure knockoff it is this time. I just cannot.
They were going to release that big game Hyenas, and that was going to be not quite a super game, but like a major release. Then they canceled it and laid off a bunch of the staff.
I just love the idea of the super game. It's a super. What does that even mean? What does that mean?
It is to games what Super Nintendo was to Nintendo.
So more?
Yeah, more.
Of it?
More
Just
of it. And you have to buy it again.
GameStop no longer offering life insurance or 401k matching to employees, and other benefits are greatly reduced.
They barely gave benefits anyway, and
This
most
is
of their
true.
employees are part-time and not eligible for these benefits in the first place,
Yes.
and they still can't afford them.
I've just given up on. Just fuck off, GameStop. Please.
How long until you think we get to report that they're going under?
I think the problem with GameStop is that they're still very profitable.
Are they? Because they almost went bankrupt a few years ago.
It just seems like I mean, when your entire business model is ripping off children and selling the goods for profit, how do you fuck it up? I don't know.
Well, because more people are going to digital, so there's less people.
That's
There's
true.
less rubes essentially.
I mean, they're selling. You can go in there and buy fucking used iPods now. I mean,
Yeah.
it just. I don't know, man. They're making money somewhere because I
Right.
feel like we've been talking about them going bankrupt since the show began.
Right, but
And
they kind of got bailed out by the meme stocks a few years ago.
this is true. This is true. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, GameStop's issue is that their core business model
Uh-huh.
is still profitable. I think that they have fallen victim to the infinite growth paradigm
Right.
of just doing good business, good solid business is not enough anymore.
Yeah. Also,
We need-
their core business is starting to shift in a way that becomes less profitable as more digital games become more prevalent. I mean, two of the major consoles right now sell digital only versions.
I wonder how much of their profit comes from buying and selling used phones now, because they've been doing that for a while.
Yeah, about
MP3 players
10, 15 years
and
now.
phones. So I mean, I guess when I say core business model, the idea of being a pawn shop basically
Right.
is sound. There's still
Yeah.
pawn shops everywhere, and I almost never see pawn shops go out of business.
One down the street from me went out of business and was immediately
Really?
replaced by an identical pawn
Another
shop.
pawn shop?
with
Maybe
a
they are
different
going out of
manager.
business. They just look the fucking same, so we
Right.
can't tell. I don't know. Fuck you, GameStop. Please go away forever.
Right.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Seriously.
Canceled PS2 Daredevil game has been found and released online in case you want to play some Ben Affleck era Daredevil video games.
Yeah, because they had released that other Daredevil game the year before that one was supposed to come out, and it had
Uh-huh.
the Ben Affleck Daredevil on the cover. And
Yeah.
then the one on PS2, they just kind of shifted it back to being more comic focused after the movie came out.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's a game.
Great.
I don't
That's
know
what I
that
would
I've.
hope.
I don't know that I would have bought it back then, but I am always excited to see canceled games found and dumped online.
Yeah.
That's always nice.
Microsoft took away employees' free Game Pass until Phil Spencer insisted they return it. Once again, doing the literal bare minimum
Right.
and being hailed as a hero. I'm sure Phil
Yeah.
Spencer might be a nice guy. But
Possibly.
I'm still agitated at the fact that companies and CEOs are so fucking shitty
Yeah.
that just him not being the worst piece of garbage on earth, he gets treated like a hero in the gaming space.
Yeah. Also, despite being a wealthy corporate overlord type, He is somewhat friendly and seems to actually like games, which is
Yeah,
different than the people he replaced.
He's doing the bare minimum.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't just fuck people constantly. Also, I like Forza. Like, that's all he did. And everybody's
Right.
like, oh, fucking Phil Spencer, man. Is this how abused we are?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
as a hobby, we're this beaten down by the Todd Howards of the world.
Even like the previous nicest guy in video games was Reggie, and when Reggie first showed up, he had never played a Nintendo product before.
I always got the vibe that Reggie would scream in your fucking face. I don't know why.
To his employees, apparently he did.
Like, he just always gave off that vibe of, like, he would get up in your fucking face and scream at you. I can feel it, like, emanating.
Right.
He might be the nicest guy in the world. I have no fucking idea. But, like, I feel like I would, like, fucking forget to change the toner at work, and he'd, like, kick my office door in and be like, what's your fucking problem? Like, I'm sorry, Reggie. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading
He just
into
shows
things.
up dressed like Bald Bull from Punch Out.
Maybe I'm projecting. Silent Hill game disables chat after too many posts about cum. Yes, that kind of cum,
Yeah.
as in ejaculate.
It was, God, this first of all, it's not a game. So the headline was slightly wrong.
Uh-huh.
It's a television series that is broadcast through an app or a website where people can occasionally do QTEs to not affect anything because they're broken.
Mm-hmm.
And they can also pay or optionally answer the same puzzle every single day to receive points that they can use to buy votes on how the story will go. Not that those votes matter, because the winning votes are always caused by people who don't appear to be real people.
Yeah.
And they had the chat going on the first day, and the game was going so awfully that people decided they wanted to bombard the chat with the phrase, "I want Hideo Kojima's cummy in my tummy." And also one guy that was saying that he was wearing his James Sunderland cock ring
Yeah.
while he watched it. It kind of devolved. Also, they learned that eventually they did censor Hideo Kojima's name because of all this, but they did not censor racial slurs.
Yeah.
It is,
It's a train wreck. It's a
It
Konami
is.
branded train wreck.
and it's got 5 more months to go.
I feel like executives are probably like, well, they'll get bored of this, but I think they're they're underestimating. They're underestimating.
Misunderestimating is a quote.
Yeah, that's that. I think they're underestimating Silent Hill fans and how obsessive they are.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think-
fortunately, it seems the Silent Hill community is, for the large part, ignoring this
Okay,
and pretending it does not exist.
right.
Unfortunately, like most mobile apps and things, there are already some whales that have spent hundreds of dollars on it,
Right.
buying a battle pass for a television show.
What
And
does that
buying,
even fucking mean?
I don't know. It comes with stickers that you can use in the chat. So now that they've disabled regular chat, you can
Mhm.
only post stickers. And one of them is a loaf of bread. And one of the stickers is rainbow font that says, "It's trauma."
Awesome. Yes.
The whole thing is just offensive. I don't get it.
Miyu Mini Flip was announced. And it's great because Miyu, the company, just texts my phone because I have Telegram and I'm in their Telegram thread for their factory. And I'm interested to see. I like flip devices. I like the form factor of flip devices. I like the protection they provide. And they're already showing some really fun colorways.
Yeah.
This is very much a GBA SP shaped device
Right.
with joysticks added. And get this, a headphone jack.
Oh shit!
There's a headphone jack on the bottom of this.
That can't fit on a GBA SP. Justin.
I know.
That's
I
impossible.
was shocked as well. But we'll see. It looks. I mean, Miyu has a couple different devices kind of being cooked up right now.
Yeah.
And they've made devices before the Mini as well. I don't think any of them have enjoyed the amount of success as the Mini. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Silhouette Mirage for Saturn has been fan translated into English.
Nice.
So if you've been waiting to play it, there it is. There you
And
go.
what a great game that is too. You should really play it if you haven't yet.
I have not.
Oh, it's so good.
And I won't. You can't make me, Saturn. Maybe I will. Aiju Onuma to receive knighthood from France's Ministry of Culture.
That's weird.
I didn't know that France knighted people.
I didn't know that they knighted people who don't or haven't ever lived in their country.
Yeah, is this a thing? People that live in knighting countries, can you just knight you can just like call someone on the phone and be like, yo, we're going to make you a knight. And then you'd be like, well, I've never even been to your country. And they're like, yeah, I don't care. Yeah, come on over. We'll give you a sword. You can defend the king or whatever. Like, I don't know that I'm an American. I don't know the details of knighthood. Yeah. I presume that it's a job. You're now, it's your job.
Just call up Rick Astley and be like, hey, guess what? You're a knight now.
Yeah, like now, whenever the king is under fire, you have to come defend him.
I don't think knights do that anymore.
Is that not what what's the purpose then?
Well, now they have armies that do that.
Well, knights were in the army.
Yeah, not anymore. Now knights just have a title.
I don't understand. I need someone to write in and tell me what the fuck this is all about and how it works. I don't understand it. Humble published games will no longer be provided free to subscribers of Humble Choice. Hey, they only fucking published them. What do you want them to fucking do? Give you stuff for money? What are you, an asshole? What's your problem?
Yeah, this is another baffling choice from Humble since they got purchased by IGN, who in turn got purchased by Ziff Davis.
They seem to be making small... How the fuck? How in the hot fuck is Ziff Davis still a company? How? How? Yeah. Just die. Just die already. Go take GameStop, take each other out to the pasture, and shoot each other to death.
I think the current Ziff Davis is not actually related to the previous Ziff Davis except for in name.
That makes less sense. Why won't these companies die, Saturn?
Yeah, well, I've got a lot of answers for that. You remember back when Tech TV used to be called Ziff Davis TV?
No, I'm not old enough. I didn't have cable in that era.
In 97?
No, I didn't have cable in 97.
Okay.
No,
yeah,
no, I did not.
I think it was 2 or 3 years after that they were renamed to Tech TV, but originally it was Ziff Davis Television. And we didn't have it on our cable, but one of our neighbors had it on their satellite.
Yeah.
And I remember my friend's dad just being like, what the hell is a Ziff Davis? And why would I want to watch that? Which is probably why they renamed it.
I still have that question. And finally, Vampire Survivors is getting a story mode because it's the best value in gaming and possibly the best game that has released in years.
It might just be the best value, period.
It might just be the best game. I mean, as time goes on, it's not getting worse.
Right.
So, and it already started pretty awesome. So, hey, at least some good things are going on in gaming, specifically in the indie gaming world.
Yeah.
Because that's where all the cool stuff seems to be.
Right.
Speaking of not indie gaming, that brings us to our topic at hand.
Yeah.
This week we're talking about the Xbox, which we all know as the console from the makers of the hit PC game Ski Free. Because that's those people.
Those guys.
With the Windows people.
You remember Ski Free with the Yeti?
Oh, I remember Ski Free. I remember it. The game was terrifying. I guess maybe I was younger than you. The Yeti scared the shit out of me. It was a terrifying game. It was a fun, leisurely skiing game
figure Yeti
that ended in terror every time. He'd just come out of fucking nowhere and he was so fast. It was like that scene in The Ring where she's like crawling super fast and you're like, how is she that fast? It was terrifying to me.
Oh my God. I want to see a version of The Ring that replaces her with the Yeti. the stick figure Ski Free Yeti.
Scared the shit out of me. Release dates. Xbox came out November 15th, 2001 in North America, February 22nd, 2002 in Japan, and European and Australian territories, March 14th, 2002. Mm-hmm. As far as contemporary release dates, because this generation is kind of weird.
Yeah.
The Dreamcast came out in 1999 and was discontinued by the time the Xbox was coming out.
Right.
The PlayStation 2 released in March 2. I can't talk tonight.
I think when I
over caffeine, it's too much caffeine. My mouth is faster than the words. PlayStation 2 released March 2000 in Japan, October and November 2000 in other territories, and the GameCube came out September 14th, 2001 in Japan, November 2001 in North America, and April/May 2001 in Europe and Australia. Just to kind of give some timelines on where the Xbox released in there.
And just so that we can narrow it down, the North American release was 3 days before the GameCube.
Yeah, it's right on top of each other.
Yes.
But both of these were a year after the PlayStation 2.
Correct. Yes.
So kind of a weird staggered generation.
And the PS2 was a year after the Dreamcast, and also a few months before the Dreamcast was discontinued.
It's interesting, this generation in particular, there's a lot of weird crossover. And it might have just been my age bracket, but I feel like I remember the early aughts. Some people had the new stuff.
Yeah.
A couple people had Dreamcast, a couple people had the GameCube. Some people, their primary console was still the N64 or the PlayStation 1 because they just didn't upgrade.
Well, PS1 was still getting new games until like 04, 05.
That's true. I mean, Final Fantasy 9 was 2003?
No, it was 2000.
2000? Was it 2000?
Yes.
Wow, still, it's 2000, the year the PlayStation 2 came out.
Yes, and then Final Fantasy X was 01.
Yeah. So it's just things are weirdly staggered. Now, granted, you could also say that things are weirdly homogenous now, where companies seem to follow suit one after another.
Right.
But that was very much less a thing in this era.
Yes.
As far as first encounters, I got an Xbox when the MechAssault / Xbox Live bundle was on the shelf, and it came with the Model S controller.
Right.
So probably I think 2003-ish, because I think MechAssault was 02, and that bundle came out a little bit later.
Yep.
Which puts me right at about 15 years old.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of the perfect age for the edginess that the Xbox wanted to sell me.
Yeah.
I had never really delved into the world of Japanese games or JRPGs, so I think I was right in that target demo of an American kid right about that age where 15 is kind of the age where you start to worry about like looking cool or looking grown up or what other people think of you, or you start to have a lot of ideas like this of self-image ideas, I think.
Yeah.
And Xbox was there to reinforce a lot of these negative self-image ideas. But at that age, you're just looking for...
Xbox, Mountain Dew, and Taco Bell were there for you.
They were right there, and I enjoyed all three of them in tandem. I played mine to death. I always preferred it to my PS2. I still don't really love the PS2 and have not played a ton of it. I mean, my GameCube saw more play than my PS2. I didn't have a lot of games on my PS2. I didn't like the hardware. I didn't like the controller. I didn't like the system. I played my PS1, my little white one, more than my PS2.
Weird.
So yeah, that was kind of my weird trajectory. I don't remember if I got the Xbox or the GameCube first. I really cannot remember. I think I got my GameCube and then Xbox was like a year later. But I'm really just totally guessing. So yeah, I was very much entrenched in the Xbox camp. I remember the first time I played Xbox was at my friend's house. We were hanging out in the park, and he was like, "Hey, come over. I got this game called Halo on my Xbox." And I went over and I played it, and I was like, "This is incredible. My mind is fucking blown. There are vehicles. It's a shooting game like GoldenEye or Doom. It's awesome."
Doom clone.
I was so excited about this GoldenEye Doom clone on the Xbox. So I played the shit out of mine. I think probably hours-wise, the single game I put the most time into had to have been the first Fable. I played it just to pieces. But what about you, Saturn? Tell me about how much you loved the original Xbox.
So it was the third of the systems fourth of the systems that generation that I got, because I already had a PS2, GameCube, and Dreamcast, and I was not particularly interested in it when it was first announced, aside from the fact that Sega was announcing games for it.
Right.
Stuff like Panzer Dragoon and Jet Set Radio Future got my attention to the point where I was like, well, I could look at it, but I wasn't in any way excited about it. And most of the games that I preferred were on the other systems anyway. But after Steel Battalion got announced, I was like, oh, I need to get one of those because that's stupid. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and I have to have it.
Yeah.
And so that's when I got mine. I got mine used. I actually found my receipt for mine recently. I had bought it at the electronics boutique that I was working at. The console was used for $179, and I got a 10% discount as an employee, and plus some other discount for some other reason for trading something in. So the system ended up being just under $150. And then on the same receipt, I had pre-ordered Steel Battalion for $200.
To be fair, Steel Battalion probably has more engineering in it than the Xbox.
Right. But no, I initially I was underwhelmed with the Xbox because I didn't like the original controller. I did get a S-type controller shortly thereafter, and I liked that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, most of the games on the system do not exactly target me. I am not that demographic.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple weeks ago, we read through the first issue of Xbox Magazine for Read Along, which is one of our Patreon exclusive shows.
Mm-hmm.
And you seemed surprised by how edgy and insane they were.
So here's the thing, and I was thinking about it, is if I got my Xbox at right about 15, I got a job at GameStop pretty much dead on the month I turned 16.
Yeah.
Because I had been working at a taco shop, and I was like, now I can go to GameStop and get an air quotes real job. And so I think maybe a lot of the kind of Xbox bro gamer culture was swept up in just the general sort of GameStop teenager gamer culture of working at a GameStop.
Yeah, I fortunately got to miss all of that.
Yeah. So I think that's it, like, to me, gaming in that era in general was that.
Yeah,
I think a lot of that was just 16-year-olds hanging out at a GameStop all day was going to be very congruous with the Xbox marketing push.
My side of gaming in this era was shit like Katamari Damacy and Mr. Mosquito and JRPGs. So I was very opposite of that side of gaming.
Yeah, that was the weird shit that we all saw, and we were like, that's some weird shit. Anyway, back to Full Spectrum Warrior.
Oh, God.
I loved Full Spectrum. I played the shit out of that game.
However, one thing that did sell me on the Xbox eventually, when I did start getting ports of games that were also on PS2 and GameCube, was it didn't need a memory card to save games because I had a hard drive, and that made me very excited. And also it supported 1080i output, which I didn't yet have a TV that supported 1080i, but I shortly thereafter did get one, and that was very exciting to me.
Only some of them caught fire.
Right. Yeah, and none of my Xboxes have caught fire. I'm very proud to say.
People that don't know, there was a power cord recall on the Xbox, because the Xbox, this was a plus for me. The power cord on it, like, there was no AC adapter part. Like on the GameCube, it just was a cord that went straight in the wall. Which granted,
PS1 and PS2 and
PS2 was this PS2. So, my PS1 was the little PS1.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it had the big brick, and I didn't have PS2 till later, and I hated the PS2. So it was exciting to me that I remember being like, wow, it's just this like little cord. It was like a feature. I was very excited about it.
Yeah, and then when they did replace the cord because of the fire hazard, the one they replaced it with had a turtle shell, which eliminates that.
Yes.
And I find the turtle shell to be less convenient than the AC adapter on the PS1 Mini or the GameCube.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Let's talk about the development of the Xbox.
Yeah.
And this kind of starts pre-Xbox in the 90s, because there's some things that happened leading up to it. Because I remember at the time, a lot of people...
TV show Friends.
A lot of people were like, why would Microsoft make a game console? I remember we were excited, but we were like, fucking why? Microsoft? It was a weird idea that Microsoft would make a game console.
To me, having lived through the 90s, it kind of felt like just another name in the hat, because we'd already had Panasonic try to release a game console. We'd had
Philips.
Philips with CDI. We had Sony show up. We had Atari try to come back at one point. So there were all these companies that were either electronics companies or weird companies that had tried to release a console at some point. And so while it did feel like Microsoft they didn't quite fit into the establishment of Sega, Nintendo, and Sony. Sega's departure made it feel a little more natural to me than some of those others had been.
Having kind of missed the multimedia console craze of the early 90s that really generated a lot of these weirder attempts.
Yeah.
A lot of it was just because that was like the 92 to 94-ish era.
I think they were still around 95, almost 96 before they started getting fully killed.
1995 was first grade for me.
Okay, yeah.
So I pretty roundly missed all of that. Went straight into PlayStation 1 and 64, and then straight into this generation.
You also somehow completely missed the Genesis, though.
I did. Yeah, I did utterly miss it. It just didn't happen.
So
So
weird.
yeah. To me, I remember me and my friends thinking it was weird. Because we, again, just by age bracket, you would have been dead center for the multimedia consoles.
Yeah.
And we missed it.
Yeah,
So it was weird to us.
I was almost
sure.
20 when the Xbox came out.
Yeah, no, I was 15. Anyway, so pre-Xbox, for people that don't know, in the 90s, Microsoft very much dominated the PC gaming landscape to the point that it kind of is silly to even say that because they were PC gaming, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Windows was fully synonymous with computer gaming. Macs were basically a joke outside of a few niche titles.
Yeah.
And Linux was just still kind of a weird side project for dorks. Like nobody
Yeah.
even had dreams of video games running on Linux, or God forbid, having Linux ports.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's
a handful, but
there's a couple of weird ones early on.
Even then, they were hard to get to run just because you'd have to somehow also get your 3D video card to work in Linux.
And so this is 90s we're talking. Microsoft had published a bunch of successful titles. They had a Flight Simulator. They had stuff going on in the gaming space. And Microsoft's DirectX was very much the API of choice across the market. This is in the realm long before we had a wealth of easily selectable engines and APIs and stuff to program in, and consoles that supported lots of them.
Oh, yeah. And also Microsoft started aggressively gathering up the rights for PC ports during this era as well.
Yeah.
You saw Microsoft release the PC version of Metal Gear Solid. Microsoft got the rights to the MechWarrior franchise from Infogrames and started publishing those as well. So they were definitely trying to become more embedded in the gaming scene on PC in the late 90s.
And this is like antitrust era Microsoft. This is big. When you hear people talking about Microsoft being this dominant bully in the industry, 90s Microsoft is what they're talking about. 80s Microsoft was leading up to it. They were getting there, but this is when it really came down hard. Microsoft was it. They were computers in the 90s, basically.
Yeah.
And in this era, according to Nobuyuki Idei, which I think I pronounced semi-correct.
Close enough.
Was the, at the time, CEO of Sony. He said that Bill Gates was personally offended when he turned down his offer for Sony to use Microsoft tech in the PS2 before the PS2 was announced. So this is late 90s. Bill Gates got wind of the PS2 and was like, hey, use Microsoft tech in the PS2. And according to Idei, Gates was personally offended and, quote, flew into a rage.
Now, if you remember, the Dreamcast did use Windows 10.
It did. It uses Windows CE. And so they had, Microsoft had done this before.
Yeah.
And they basically wanted the same thing for the PS2.
Right.
And for people that only know Bill Gates as the, like, softer, old person version of Bill Gates was famous for flying into rages.
Right.
The idea of Bill Gates flying into a rage and taking things very personally is absolutely on brand for 90s Microsoft. I know that now he's this like gentle old man, and like so many people that really did a lot of horrible things, he's very like gentrified Bill Gates now.
Right.
But that was not his MO back in this era. And so while it seems this story was never really confirmed, if it's true, it could kind of be an early start to the kind of Sony-Microsoft rivalry that the PS2 and the Xbox really embodied, getting snubbed by the CEO of Sony. And the story continues that Bill Gates had seen enough of the PS2 to understand that it wasn't just a video game console, but a multimedia device, which I know it sounds silly to say multimedia device for a device that just plays DVDs and video games.
And
but
music.
And music, but that's what qualified for multimedia in the era, so you give it a break.
And Microsoft was particularly worried about that because they were also trying to enter the living room at the time with Web TV. They had purchased Web TV, and they were trying to make Web TV your multimedia experience in the living room, and they saw PS2 as a serious competitor to that.
Yeah, so this was something that could compete with not only personal computers, something that gives you this multimedia, but outside of having to fuss with a computer, but also some of their other technologies they're trying to bring to market. And later, during a corporate retreat, it was decided that Microsoft had to compete with the PS2 directly or suffer in this like post-PC world.
Right.
Which is hilarious to me that in the late 90s, we were talking about the post-PC world.
Well, we've been talking about the death of the PC since the 90s. It's been just around the corner the whole time.
It has. And everything was going to kill it. First, the PS2 and video game consoles was going to kill it. And then convertible computers. And then
smartphones, then tablets.
What are those little notebooks? The
netbooks.
Netbooks were going to kill it. Tablets were going to kill it. Smartphones were going to kill it.
You remember the old rumor about how Saddam Hussein had a room full of PS2s that he was using to create nuclear warheads or whatever? Did you not catch that back in the day?
No, I've never heard that Saddam Hussein was manufacturing WMDs with PlayStation 2s.
That was a whole thing. Like actual legitimate news agencies were talking about that as if there was a chance it was real. They're like, oh yeah, he's got a room of like 30 or 50 PS2s that he purchased and has turned them into a supercomputer, and that's why they're so hard to find in America, because one guy in the Middle East bought a few dozen of them. And it was a weird era.
Idiots.
Yeah.
So, all of this to say that Microsoft was intentionally entering the market to compete with Sony with the PlayStation 2, because according to reports, they saw it as a threat. They saw it as a threat to what PCs were, what they wanted PCs to become, and markets they wanted to enter. So it wasn't just a willy-nilly idea, because I feel like sometimes there's, even now, in the grand scheme of Microsoft, we kind of have this question of like we're glad Xbox is still around, but kind of why? You know, like just...
I'm sorry, I found the news story. It was 4,000 PS2s. That's how many Saddam Hussein had.
Is that how many you need to make a nuclear weapon?
Apparently that's how many.
It's weird that we made nuclear weapons before the PlayStation 2 came out.
How did we even do that?
Seems like we didn't have 4,000
PS2s
before then. It's just...
sorry.
Anyway, so after this, the Xbox begins to emerge. So in 1998, engineers from Microsoft's DirectX team set forth trying to work out exactly what a competitor to the PS2 would look like using the project codenamed Midway.
Yes.
Which astute listeners will remember as a World War II battle that saw Japan getting very much defeated by American forces. So I guess anti-Japan sentiment was kind of baked into the Xbox from the ground level.
Well, Midway is also the name of like an arcade.
True, but that's not how they backed it up.
Yeah, I know.
On this team were Kevin Bacchus, Seamus Blackley, Ted Hayes, and Otto Burks, or Berkes. Burks, I think it's Burks. I don't know why it would be Berkes, but I want it to be Berkes. But I'm sure it's Burks. Hey, Berkes! Otto Burks being the DirectX lead at the time, I believe.
Yeah.
And during early development meetings, it was decided that the machine would run on Windows 2000 with DirectX 8.1 in hopes of creating kind of a convenient on-ramp for PC developers looking to work on Xbox titles.
Right.
And shocking no one, they decided it would look an awful lot like a PC, complete with a hard drive and DirectX technology, very much PC parts going into this device.
Right.
And this was not a thing that, while video game consoles had started to use more common architectures and more common parts, game companies were still very much treating all of their systems like these are proprietary boxes with proprietary things in them.
They were treating them more like arcade machines that, happen to have a changeable ROM cart.
We hadn't fully given up the fact that they're all just kind of x86 machines that are with some special stuff on top of them. Yeah. They very much are now.
Right. Yeah, now they are. Except for the Switch.
Yeah, of course. That's an Android phone.
Yep.
At this stage, one of the proposed names for the system was DirectX Box, which was very stupid and is still very stupid.
Correct.
Because I feel like the general consumer at the time didn't really know what the fuck DirectX was. We know we needed to install it when we installed a game.
We knew it was that annoying thing that forced itself to install every time we installed any game.
Yeah, and then half the time you'd go through the whole install and it would go, newer version's already installed. You'd be like, then why the fuck did you run? What are you doing? Who is programming this?
Right. And then sometimes it would be like, you currently have DirectX 8. This game requires DirectX 5 or higher.
Yeah. And like all good corpos, Microsoft did consumer surveys, and in them they put in a placeholder name of Xbox.
Yep.
It was just there to kind of fill a blank, and it turns out that consumers vastly preferred the placeholder name of Xbox.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from.
Yeah.
It was direct Xbox, and they're like, oh, we need to fill in a blank. I don't know, Xbox, and here we are.
Did you watch the documentary series that Microsoft released about the Xbox?
I watched bits of it, but
Okay.
I didn't sit down through the whole thing.
Okay.
No.
And some
I
of
did
it's
not.
pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
It's worth sitting down with. But
I think I'd started it, and it was a little too corpo bootlicky, and I know that they
it
get
is.
they get deep into a lot of it, and they do say some things, and there's
Yeah.
some shade cast here and there,
There is,
but it was a little too like corporate sponsored.
it's very much an advertisement that
Yeah.
occasionally remembers to be a historical document.
Yeah. Which brings us to the launch. And Siren,
Yes.
I want you to tell us about this launch because I just want to be amused the whole time because,
Yeah.
man, this was so fucking America. It
Yeah.
was like,
And so there was the whole Mountain Dew promotions. There
Mhm.
was tons of pre-launch marketing, and we already talked about Xbox Magazine and how just creepy and misogynistic they were.
yes.
But the actual
Now, to be fair, almost all American gaming magazines at the time, outside of ones aimed at children, such as Nintendo Power,
Right.
were oddly misogynistic.
True.
Especially PC gaming
Mhm.
magazines. PC gaming magazines of this era, the late 90s, early aughts, are thirsty as fuck, and it's weird as hell.
And all the advertisements were pretty thirsty. Even
Oh, yeah.
Nintendo was putting out some thirsty advertisements back then.
I remember being a kid, and it was late 90s, and I was reading comic books, and there was this ad of a very sexual mail carrier woman, and she had a milk mustache, and it was just got milk. And I don't
Yeah.
know, it's been a couple decades. I don't know if I'm misremembering, but I remember because I very much wanted to look at that ad. And
What?
so I remember it was showing up in every comic I had for months.
about
Just
right.
this very sexy male lady with a milk mustache.
Yeah, that sounds like the 90s.
And I still to this day remember that very sexy male lady with her milk mustache.
So
Anyway.
the announcement of the Xbox, the public announcement,
Yes.
was at CES, back when we still used CES to announce video games.
Right.
And this was in January of 2001, and on the stage was Bill Gates from Microsoft, because it's a Microsoft event, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
This is, for people that don't remember, this is
Before he was an
turtleneck,
actor.
black turtleneck with the little gold chain
Yes.
era Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yes, wearing sunglasses indoors, Rock Johnson.
When he still had the little hair, and
Yes.
he was asking people to smell what he's cooking.
Yes.
This is the era of The Rock that we're talking about.
He took a brief break from smelling what he was cooking to unveil the Xbox.
Well, no. He never smells what he's cooking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's always asking others to smell if they smell what he's cooking.
Oh, okay. Well,
He
what
never
was
smells his own cooking. I assume he has anosmia or something. He was cooking up a people's elbow is what he was cooking up.
Oh, okay.
I was
thought it
very into
bacon.
wrestling in this era too, so I was watching a lot of The Rock. Anyway,
So-
can we talk about the weird fucking console they had on stage at this announcement?
Yeah.
It was a
The big silver X.
Chrome X,
Yeah.
and this was their prototype. It was literally a giant, like 2 foot tall, fucking stainless steel metal X
Yeah.
with a PC inside of it.
Yeah. So
And at that point, just show nothing. It was ridiculous.
well, here's the thing. They had shown that previously when they had The Rock there with Bill Gates.
yeah.
They were showing the actual final retail version.
I don't know why I remember The Rock
Me
being on
too.
stage with the Chrome thing.
I always did too, and I had to go back and look as I was doing the notes for this because I wanted
Yeah.
to mention the dumb giant Chrome device.
Which
but
has
no,
been
when
recovered, I believe.
what's that?
I think that's been recovered. I think someone has it.
Yeah. Someone found the thing, and apparently it's heavy enough that you could really hurt somebody with it.
Yeah.
But no, when they had The Rock on stage indoors with sunglasses, they were showing the final version of the system along with its giant
that's weird,
controller.
Berenstein Bears
Right?
situation.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. And then the launch of the console later that year in November, the first console sold was at the Toys R Us in Times Square, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Gates himself rang up the first buyer. He is not a Toys R Us employee, by the way.
After which he, quote, flew into a rage.
Now he apparently stayed and played Halo and Fusion Frenzy with some of the Xbox purchasers at the Toys R Us.
With some of the riffraff, huh?
Yep.
I see.
So there were 21 games available at launch, which is a pretty good
That's
chunk
a
of games.
sizable amount. I mean, this
Right?
is, this is still in the era where systems would launch with 5 and 6 games.
Right,
That'd be
yeah.
it for
I mean,
weeks.
the N64 launched with 2 games. So this
Yeah.
was a pretty good list. There were 21
Pretty
games at launch day, and another 16 games released by the end of the year. So within the first 2 months. And Microsoft was only responsible for 4 of those launch games. The other 17 were all from third-party companies. Activision, IDOS, EA, Gathering of Developers, Infogrames, Konami, Midway, TDK, Tecmo, and THQ all had a game available at launch. TDK had that Shrek game on day one.
Yeah. Oh,
That was,
yeah.
That was
With
a game
the
people
orange
bought.
cover. It was like
Yep.
Shrek in front of an orange
No, it was a
gradient background.
Purple
Was
cover.
it purple?
Yes, it was.
I don't know why I
purple
remember
cover.
it being orange.
Yeah, it's a purple cover, and it's just half of Shrek's face.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yep.
Yep. There you go. Because he's just peeking up from the bottom.
Yep.
Yes.
So the highest selling games at launch were Dead or Alive 3, Fusion Frenzy, Halo, Oddworld Munch's Odyssey, and Project Gotham Racing, though Halo was so far ahead of those others that it's barely comparable.
Of those games, I only played Halo and PGR. I was really into PGR 1 and 2.
Dead or Alive 3 was neck and neck with Halo for like a month, but then Halo very much overtook it. At launch, there were still a lot of magazines that were unsure if Halo was going to be the hit that the reviewers thought it was going to be, but they knew Dead or Alive 3 was going to be a hit. So you saw a lot of those early magazines that were like kind of hedging their bets towards DOA 3 being the killer app for the Xbox.
Also at this time, Halo was that weird project by the people that used to make Mac games that used to be a Mac game.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a known quantity. It was a new franchise by a developer that had already kind of hopped around a little bit platform wise. It was kind of strange. It was kind of weird. The versions that were presented versus the game that actually came out, very different. It changed a lot in development. So I think it was very much just an unknown quantity at this time. So it absolutely makes sense. When we read that magazine on Read Along, it was very much the same thing. It was very DOA heavy, you know?
Yeah, I was working at EB. Actually, I got my job at EB a week or two after the Xbox came out. So I was there for the launch window, but not for the launch date. Yeah. And I remember that holiday season, we couldn't keep PS2 in stock. It was gone. The second it was in the door, it was gone. GameCube we could usually keep in stock, but just barely. Like we'd always have one left before more showed up. And Xbox, we were usually pretty good at keeping in stock. They sent us a healthy amount of Xboxes. They would still sell fast, but we had way too many of them. And I think you worked there at a GameStop when the Xbox was still in production.
Yeah.
Those boxes are enormous.
I would have been starting in 04-05-ish
era. So shortly before the 360.
Yeah. I was there for 360 launch, and it wasn't long after I started.
Yeah, the boxes that the original Xbox come in are enormous. And the boxes that they send them to retailers in only held 2 Xboxes per box because of how huge the box is. Yeah. So we would have stacks of 8 of those boxes of 2 Xboxes in our back room. And anytime somebody would buy one, we'd have to go and open up that box and get one of the 2 out of it. But it was just busy enough, and they were selling fast enough that we didn't have time to just unpack all of them.
Yeah.
But I do not miss that box. It was difficult to get out of its box. It was difficult to lug around. It had no handles. It was just an enormous, bulky, awkward, heavy box.
Yeah. Let's talk hardware and peripherals, and we're going to kind of fire through some of this, but it did come with a hard drive, which was a huge deal.
Yes.
Because everything else had memory cards up to this point.
Right.
Well, I mean, some systems had internal memory, but not
the
current
Turbo
ones.
CD, Sega CD, Saturn all had battery backup instead of memory cards.
But this was a real deal hard drive. It was enormous for the time.
Yeah, it was 8 gigabytes.
8 gigs was the minimum, and that felt gigantic. And you know
Oh, yeah.
what? When you're only saving save data,
Right.
it is kind of gigantic.
Yeah, any game that was multi-platform, I would get on Xbox just because I wouldn't have to eat up memory card space.
Yeah.
Like I remember Fatal Frame on PS2 used up at least a quarter of your memory card just for that one game.
Yeah.
So if I played it on my Xbox,
Wasn't
it
the
used-
PS2 memory card 8 megabytes?
Yes, it was 8 megabytes.
I mean, that's tiny in comparison.
So if I used it on my Xbox, it didn't even make a dent on my hard drive.
There was the built-in network adapter. It
Yes.
was not an additional add-on. And there was no dial-up modem.
Correct.
Which
Apparently they considered a dial-up during the development of the console, but late in development they decided they can't have dial-up and get the performance they wanted. So they needed to go high speed only. And that was controversial at the time.
2001 feels like kind of the earliest you could even adopt this stance.
A lot of customers were upset about it.
Like 01 feels really early. Like I feel like by 05, a lot more people had adopted high-speed internet.
Now, there was an adapter that we sold at Electronics Boutique that you could plug into your computer's serial port that would create a network out so that you could share your dial-up connection to your Xbox.
Oh, I'm sure that worked great.
Yeah, I don't remember what the name of the company was. It was some garbage company that made this thing. But we sold a lot of them early on just because people didn't have high-speed options yet. They only had dial-up in the area. So, yeah, it was a controversial move, but I think it was the correct move in the long run.
I think it was too. We got cable late, but we got DSL real early. So that was kind of my weird trajectory. Controller-wise, there was the original controller.
The Duke.
Kindly referred to as the Duke.
Retroactively referred to as the Duke.
It's real big. I never had a problem with it.
I always called it the hamburger pad.
It was a little weird. Like, my problem wasn't the size.
That's enormous.
It was the shape. It was kind of an odd shape.
Yeah.
I could still totally fine play games with it. But the shape was a little weird. Like, in addition to just being big, it was just sort of bulbousy.
One issue that I have with original Xbox controllers, both the Duke and the Type S, is I could never easily reach the white and black buttons in any game.
Yeah, because they on the original they were above the face buttons, were they not? And then I think on the later model, did they move them to the bottom?
Yeah, they moved them down to the right. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a revision, the controller Type S, which was originally made for Japan, and it ended up coming out in other regions, and very much became the sort of the standard Xbox controller that everyone sort of wanted.
And then they only did the Type S.
While I never found the Duke like difficult to play games with, the Type S was definitely the more comfortable controller.
Yeah.
It felt more sensibly designed to the point that you're kind of wondering what the fuck was happening with the Duke. Other than, I don't know, just...
It looks... The Duke kind of feels like they just took the Sidewinder and tried to cram in memory card ports.
Yeah. Yeah. It was weird.
Yeah.
Very weird. There were plenty of weird controllers, peripherals. This was kind of a hotbed era of weird peripherals. There were rifles and shotguns and Xbox Live microphones and dance pads and all kinds of
karaoke microphones.
Also that. The controllers also featured, this was my favorite, I loved this. They have a breakaway cable.
Yep.
It was fantastic.
Which they continued to have on the 360 as well.
Oh, yeah, they did. I guess I always had the wireless, but I forget they did have the breakaway on the 360 as well. So if you pull it at a weird angle, it's not going to rip your whole system out of the wall. Which was a big thing for me because my mom was a habitual offender with the vacuum cleaner ripping your system out of the entertainment system.
Right.
There were memory cards, presumably to move saves between systems, I guess.
Yeah, that's the only reason I can think of. But a lot of games were locked to your system and wouldn't let you transfer to the memory card.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. It's an odd choice. I assume there are some games that heavily used them, but
I remember my assistant manager at EB used to refer to the memory card ports on the Xbox controller as the vestigial VMU connector.
It does look very Dreamcast.
Yeah.
There's the Xbox Live headset, which plugged into the memory card port.
Yep.
There was the DVD remote, which you had to buy the DVD playback kit to play DVDs at all because the Xbox did not include the license
Right.
for the DVD software.
Yes.
So while the Xbox is hardware capable of playing DVDs out of the box,
Yeah.
they didn't include the license in the cost, so you had to buy the playback kit,
Right.
even if you didn't want the remote to play DVDs.
Yes. And
Which
that
is
was,
fucking weird.
that was their way to keep the system at $300 at release, so that it would be the same price as the PS2, is just not pay for the license for DVDs.
Yeah.
But what a ridiculous thing
Now-
to skimp out on.
Don't ask why nobody went, why don't we use 10% less plastic for the controller and make it slightly smaller? But they didn't. Instead, they just cut out DVD playback
Yeah.
in a system that they directly wanted to compete with the PS2.
Right. Yeah.
Let's be clear. There was from the beginning, they were like, this competes with the PS2. No, it won't play DVDs out of the box. What the fuck did you think was going to happen?
And the
Microsoft?
DVD remote wasn't even available for a week or two after launch.
And it was a shitty remote.
It was.
The PS2 remote was so much sleeker and nicer than the Xbox remote.
And eventually, by the time the PS2 50,000 model arrived, the receiver for the remote was baked right into the system. You didn't even have to plug in the receiver.
By the time, like the Xbox DVD playback remote felt like the shitty Universal remote that you bought for like $1 at Kmart.
Yes.
It was shitty. Let's talk notable exclusives. Because what is this system without games? We talked about Halo for a little bit.
Yep.
There were racing games. There's PGR, Rally Sport, Forza, and at the time, PGR was racing games to me like that. I loved PGR.
And PGR started on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
But the developer of it moved over to Xbox, and it became a first-party Xbox title. But it's kind of sad how that series just kind of vanished.
Yeah. There's XSN Sports, which I don't even remember.
Yeah, it was Microsoft's first-party sports games. You had NFL Fever, you had NBA Inside Drive, I think, and NHL something. Then Amped and Top Spin and Rally Sport Challenge was considered an XSN game. It was Microsoft's internal sports division, and a lot of these games had actually started previously on PC before the Xbox launched, and they just carried them over because they assumed that a console needed first-party sports games.
Yeah.
But this is also the era where we stopped seeing first-party sports games, because Sony used to have their own football and baseball and basketball games, and Nintendo used to produce their own baseball and basketball games. Everybody had their own first-party stuff, and this is when we finally started to see everybody say, EA can do it.
Maybe we don't need this many. Yeah.
Right?
Fusion Frenzy was kind of the de facto party game on the system if you weren't playing Halo anyway.
Right.
Crimson...
The second Fusion Frenzy is even developed by the same team that developed the Mario Party games.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was developed by Hudson.
Crimson Skies, another pretty popular multiplayer game on the system, and a game that had a little bit of acclaim.
Yep.
There was a bunch of mascot platformers that never took off. I remember Blinks the Time Cat.
Yep. The Time Sweeper.
I remember. Yeah, is that it? Time Sweeper. That game sucks.
Yeah,
I was playing that a couple months ago. It's bad.
Nice.
Mascot platformers in this era just kind of didn't do awesome.
Did you ever play Sneakers?
I did not play Sneakers. I guess we got like Ratchet and Clank kind of started in this era, so I guess maybe it wasn't a terrible generation for mascot
Jack and Daxter
platformers.
was also during this era.
Yeah, also on PS2. I feel like PS2 was just kind of the console for it because we didn't really get a proper Mario game on GameCube.
You got Sunshine.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Now, Sneakers was the game with the adorable mice that Microsoft thought was going to help them buy Japan.
Oh, yeah.
And it did poorly, and then they still released it internationally, where it also did poorly.
There's Mech Assault, which was very popular for people playing Xbox Live, like myself.
Right.
There was Fable, which, man, I was so hyped on Fable. Holy shit. And
I forgot it existed until I was writing the notes for this.
Oh, I played so much Fable. I loved Fable. I've never gone back to replay it because I'm scared. I'm scared it's going to be terrible. There's something called Nude. What the fuck is this?
That was such a big thing when it first came out. It's a Japan-only game.
No idea.
It's basically Seaman, but instead of fish with a man's face, it's a sexy robot woman.
Oh, I see. Named Nude?
No, her name is PASS, or Personal Assistant Secretary System.
Uh-huh.
And NUDE stands for Natural Ultimate Digital Experiment.
I think we've heard everything we need to hear here. I
Yeah.
think if this game came out today, it would be $4.99 on Steam and filtered out by the filters I have in place on
Yeah.
my Steam store.
There's no nudity in the game, by the way.
That is false advertising is what that is.
No, it was meant to be like the big artsy weird Japan game that was again going to convince Japan they all needed Xboxes. And it was developed by Red Entertainment, who also developed the Gungrave games and Bonk's Adventure. And it's you'll notice that you don't remember it at all.
No, at all.
That kind of tells you how that went.
There were, because we won't talk much about it just because we weren't in Japan, but the Xbox did shockingly bad in Japan. I mean, it was like you kind of expect to do a little bad whenever coming out of the gate. They're like, fuck Japan.
Right.
But it did abysmally.
Yeah.
Really bad. And there were a few different weird games that their intention, and you saw this extending into the 360 era, the intent of them was, well, this is what's going to get the Japanese market. This is going to grab the Japanese market. And Microsoft is still kind of grappling with this thing of the Japanese market just sort of doesn't give a shit about the Xbox.
And they did, I feel like they went the correct direction with the Xbox 360, but when it didn't immediately succeed, they gave
dropped it. Yeah, immediately. There was third-party stuff. DOA 3 we talked about. Panzer Dragoon on Xbox. We did a whole episode on it. Gun Valkyrie, Jet Set Radio Future, Otogi, Steel Battalion we talked about. Greg Hastings Tournament Paintball is on our list.
I put that in there just to see if you would say it.
Of course I'll say it.
I was looking up a list of Xbox exclusive games that were never on any other platform, and that was in the middle of the list. And I was like, all right, well, I have to put Greg Hastings Tournament Paintball in there.
The other big proponent of Xbox is Xbox Live.
Yes.
It didn't come out with the system. It came out a little bit later.
Yeah, about a year later.
This very much was like PS2 had online gaming.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of people being really into SOCOM on
the
PS2.
The PS2 network adapter came out, I want to say a month or two before Xbox Live released. And I remember everybody being like, yeah, it's basically going to be the exact same as SOCOM, but on Xbox, and you have to pay for it for some reason. But it wasn't. It was a much more polished service. You didn't have to create an account with every single game. You just would log in, you would play, and it would work, and you didn't have to worry about somebody else being on dial-up when you're on high speed and the game just falling to shit. It was it was just nice.
While it was a product of restrictions, not allowing dial-up customers, insisting on it being a paid service, things like this, while it was a very restrictive service, it was also a very smooth service. And for a lot of people, it was kind of their first online gaming experience. If you didn't have a PC at home, or maybe you had a PC, but your parents didn't let you install games on it, which happened in this era. That was a thing. Because your games would get blamed on the PC running poorly at this time. Oh no, it's not the fucking Bonzi Buddy your parents installed. It must be that you put Quake 3 on the computer. Your goddamn virus game is ruining the computer.
Yeah, it's not that you've installed 4 different antiviruses.
It's not the 17 toolbars you have cascading down your Internet Explorer. No.
Certainly MechWarrior 3.
It must be MechWarrior 3. That's what's doing it. It's made by those hackers. So Xbox Live was a big thing. Obviously, it was a bigger thing with the 360, but it was a pretty successful service on the original Xbox. It was a thing. People enjoyed it.
Did we mention Dead or Alive Extreme?
No, we skimmed right over. I talked about Greg Hastings Tournament Paintball, but I skipped the sexy Dead or Alive game.
Yeah, it was so dumb. But
they're all kind of sexy, but this one was, the intent of it entirely was to be sexy.
Yeah, it was a big thing when it released. And everybody was like, oh, this is something that would never appear on another system. And then the next one was immediately on every system.
You remember when BMX XXX came out?
Yeah.
And people before it came out were trying to use it as the litmus test to see like which console manufacturer was the most radicalist.
Yeah.
And then it came out on all 3 platforms anyway.
Yeah, but it was censored on PS2.
It was censored on PS2.
Yeah.
And to think how quaint it was that it was just a game in which you could see tiny pixelated titties.
Now, there was live video 240p videos of titties.
But just titties.
Right, yeah.
That's it. It's
Right.
just boobs.
Yeah.
Man,
But,
people
there's also riding bikes.
people were up in maybe these people just hate bike riding. You
That
think
may
maybe
be.
that
It could
they,
be.
you know, they just wanted to shut that down. They're like, we don't give a shit about the boobs. Bikes are stupid. What a stance.
Yeah.
Let's talk legacy.
Yeah.
The original Xbox was not nearly as popular as the PS2.
No.
It seemed to do better than the GameCube.
In most regions, yeah.
In non-Japanese regions.
Yeah.
I feel like the Xbox
Actually,
3
I think the GameCube outsold the Xbox in Europe, if I remember right.
Oh shit. I guess my point is that the Xbox was not exactly a resounding runaway success given the market conditions and given the competition. It did not beat the PS2. It did
No.
not do what it set out to do.
No.
And early on, it was plagued by some recalls, some weird controller redesigns. I do remember there were people that would be upset. Like if you bought an Xbox used or you were selling an Xbox used, which I did a lot of,
Yeah.
they'd be like, well, open the box, because for people that don't know, GameStop would sell their refurbished systems they'd come from the, in air quotes, factory in these boxes. And you would buy it like it was a new console, but it's in like a GameStop branded box.
Right.
And so they would make you open the box and see which controller it came
Right.
with. Because if it doesn't have the Type S controller, they don't want it. No, I don't want that fucking. So there was a lot working against the Xbox. It didn't have DVD playback out of the box.
Right.
It didn't have, again, we talked about the dial-up There was no dial-up adapters, so if you were on dial-up, you couldn't even use Xbox Live.
Right.
It was honestly, given the conditions and the performance of the original Xbox, I'm shocked they made another one.
Yeah.
Like, it did okay. It did all right.
Yeah.
But that was it. This was a lot of investment, a lot of time, a lot of mind
They
share, a
lost
lot of corporate
ton
resources
of money on the original Xbox.
for a thing that did okay.
But if you look at it, they spent a ton of money on it, which was essentially a ton of money on marketing.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get that return on it. And
Yeah,
they weren't
for
going to
sure.
get it by just continuing to push the same model. They had to make a new model if they wanted even a chance of getting that money back.
I do wonder if Sony had not blundered the early PS3 the way they did.
Mhm.
And for people that don't remember, it really, at least
it
in
was a
America,
mess.
obviously we're talking about North America, but
Right.
really everywhere, it had issues. It was a blunder.
Yes.
I really wonder if we would still have Xboxes on our shelves today if Sony had knocked the PS3 out of the park the way they knocked the PS2 out of the park. I
Now,
really wonder
alternatively,
that.
if the 360 had not had its red ring issues,
True.
would it have continued its lead over the PS3
Yeah.
throughout that generation? Would the PS3 have been able to come back?
Yeah. So there's the Xbox was a weird system.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that was weird about it, a lot of stuff that was very prescient about it, and a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that made no fucking sense and just seemed like it was made by a spiteful little man that was angry at somebody. Because it was.
Yeah.
Bill Gates is the person I'm talking about, obviously. For anybody that can't figure that out. But I loved my Xbox. I was a big fan of many of the exclusives. I think it's interesting that we don't really seem to think of the OG Xbox much in the retro gaming community.
Actually, I did want to mention that is because
Yeah.
it seems that a lot of the retro gaming community kind of ignores the original Xbox, and to an extent, the entire Xbox family.
Yeah.
But especially the first Xbox, and I wonder if it's because it doesn't have those kinds of retro games that you see on Nintendo and Sega systems, and eventually Sony systems.
I think
Because
some
there
of
are
it-
more Western-centric games on the Xbox.
I think some of it is, and it's what we talked about before, is a lot of the Xbox family, in air quotes here, we never really have gotten an opportunity to miss
That's true.
because a lot of it kind of hasn't gone anywhere.
Right.
I mean, there's a decent chunk of the OG Xbox library that you can still play in superior format
Yeah.
on the Series X. And Microsoft has gone to, I don't want to say great pains, but respectable lengths
Yeah.
to make Xbox feel more like a continuous line of ecosystems
True.
than, hey, this is our thing and this is our next thing.
Right.
At least much more so than their competitors.
Either of their competitors, yeah.
And so I feel like it's this thing where we don't miss the original Halo or feel nostalgic for it because it never fucking went anywhere. You can still go play it on your Xbox right now. Like it's
there are a lot of original Xbox games that I am nostalgic for because
Same.
they are not playable on later consoles. But
absolutely,
the major first party titles, no, they've not really gone anywhere.
Yeah, the big stuff. Yeah, Mech Assault is a big empty space. But like, if you want to go play Morrowind on Xbox or you want to go fire up Halo, you need go no farther than literally any Xbox.
Yeah.
Any of them that you have will do that.
Right.
It doesn't matter which one you have. It doesn't matter. They'll all do it.
Yeah.
And the newest one will do it in 4K, up-res, in the fantastic format. So it's one of those things where it doesn't feel retro because it never left.
Yeah.
It's never gone anywhere. And it has just, in many instances, gotten progressively better as the new systems have come out. And so I think that's really Xbox's success, is that they've made their legacy kind of more openly accessible than their competitors. Again, like you said, not nearly enough. Right. I would love to be able to play Mech Assault on my Series X.
I think it's something like just under 10% of the original Xbox library is compatible with Series X and S and Xbox One, which is not
tiny.
much. But
also when you cut out everything on that list that's multi-platform, licensed chaff like Shrek's 1 through Infinity,
right?
That percentage gets much higher.
But there's a lot of stuff that is still trapped on the original Xbox.
Sure, totally.
Like that upgraded version of Rent-A-Hero #1 that never even left Japan, and is still trapped on the Xbox. Didn't Metal Wolf Chaos recently get ported somewhere else?
Yeah, it's on everything now. It got re-released. Metal Wolf Chaos got re-released. Yeah. All the Halos are in the Master Chief Collection. All of the Elder Scrollses are available. I don't think Project Gotham is available on anything.
No. PGR is stuck in licensing hell.
I think you have to have the original of that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, 10% sounds like a tiny amount. But when you cut out all of the chaff and multi-platform stuff and sports games, that percentage feels a little bigger, and it's generally a meaningful 10%.
Most of my original Xbox games are not playable on any later Xboxes. I have to keep my original Xbox.
I believe almost all of mine are.
Oh, yeah,
so I guess that just speaks to the games we have on the system. You know?
Of my Xbox games, I think like maybe 1 in 5 is playable on the current consoles.
I have an OG Xbox, and I took it out because I was just feeling nostalgic for it while we were doing this episode, and I went to play it, and I went, as I was plugging it up, I was like, what am I going to play? And I was like, oh, I can play some Halo 2. And then I was like, why would I plug up my OG Xbox to play Halo 2? Like there's, and then I was like, oh, I could play some Morrowind. And I was like, that's on my Xbox already. I already have it. I have it on PC too, and I can mod the shit out. Like there's, and I don't have Mech Assault, weirdly enough. I've been emulating it on my Steam Deck. So
there's also a exclusive Shin Megami Tensei game on Xbox that's never been on anything else.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That's because it never left Japan and has never left the original Xbox.
I think because many, at least, of the most popular OG Xbox titles are still so readily available.
Right.
We've seen over time a lot less interest in emulation, a lot less interest in preservation of the original Xbox, just because, again, a lot of the really megaton important stuff is still kind of there. You just go play it, and if you have Game Pass, you don't got to pay for it a lot of the time. It's just kind of there.
Yeah, the stuff that sold really well that people remember is mostly still available somewhere. It's the weird niche obscure games, the stuff that I like, that is hard to find.
Yeah, and hopefully we see more of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of getting emulated. There have been strides in Xbox emulation in recent years, notable strides.
Someday.
It's still not awesome.
No.
It feels very much like the way emulation did in the early aughts.
Yep.
But it's functional. And at least in the Xbox games. Emulation community, there does seem to be a focus on some of the more notable missing stuff like Mech Assault.
Yeah.
Just don't try to play Mech Assault 2 because that one doesn't work. Also, I think it sucks. But what doesn't suck is our Patreon. Patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where you can get uncut versions of this show where we talk about dicks and balls for 11 minutes if
There's
you
a lot of dicks and balls.
if you want to hear us talk about dicks and balls for 11 minutes, then guess what? It's there. It's recorded.
we don't talk about our dicks and balls. I would just like to clarify that.
No, that would be no one wants to hear that. We just talk generally about the royal dicks and balls of, in the world. So that's a thing you can get. You can also listen to Talking Wizards, where Andrew and I did a bit where it was Batman at his therapist for like 20 solid minutes, as the therapist slowly realizes that he's Batman. Or you can give us money, like all the fine patrons here that we're going to thank by their legal names, starting with Bruh.
And Chronolingus. Or sorry, Chronolingua.
Chronolingus is when you give cunnilingus through time.
Yeah.
It's
I love Colonel Angus.
It's Domingo Carlo Martinez.
First,
Grimoire Games.
Michael Burchell.
Please floss after every meal.
That's good advice. The Stone Shooter.
Thomas J. of San Jose.
And VJ.
Are all the patrons that we want to thank for giving us money. You can give us money. Why don't you give us money?
We'll mispronounce your name.
Give us some money, please. We'll take it. It would be awesome because we don't run ads.
That's true.
And people have asked, and I tell them, I say, no, fuck you. I don't need your filthy advertising dollars.
Punch him in the dick.
I don't need your money, Dollar Shave Club. You can shove it up your shortly trimmed asshole. Guy's
presumably.
Guy's going to be here after the inning theme, so hang out.
Yeah, we probably should have mentioned that part before we went off the rails.
He's here. Yeah, he's here. He's going to be here. So stay tuned. You can listen to Guy talk to us about all of his Dwayne The Rock Johnson memories from the Xbox CES 2001 launch party. I'm sure he's got a lot. Very excited about it. Maybe he can tell us what The Rock was cooking, because I still don't know, and I'm scared to say that because I'm scared he's going to give me a people's elbow if I ask him today. So just putting that out there. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week, and as always, let us cling together. Party with our producer Guy, who is here for sure, right, Guy?
Do you think I'm here?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you think.
Oh no, Guy, what was The Rock cooking?
I don't know. Stuff.
What? You do
Ham.
stuff.
Tortillas.
Ham? Tortillas.
Yeah.
This is all over the place. I feel like we're no closer to the truth. What if I Google it? You think there's an answer? All right, hold on. What was The Rock cooking? Well, I'm not going to Google it. I'm going to DuckDuckGo it. Let's see. What exactly is The Rock cooking anyway? An article by Screen Rant.
Oh, my God.
Hold on. Wait. Here we go. Straight from the horse's mouth. What exactly is The Rock? Oh, here we go. The Rock finally reveals what The Rock's been cooking. And dang, what does that mean?
Oh, it's a wang.
Oh. Let's see.
Please do read this entire article to us during my segment.
I'm not going to. I'm just trying to get to I don't think I should read some of this.
Hey, Guy, what was your Xbox memories?
Yeah, tell us about the Xbox, Guy.
Oh, man, I get to tell my favorite story. Well, one of my favorite stories.
Ever?
But yeah. I used to hang out with this guy in college, and we were playing Crimson Skies at another friend's house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had been playing for an hour, and we were in the same room with these same people, and we were finishing 1 and 2 with this other person, and the after a while, my buddy just goes, "What the fuck is a Sigmachi anyway?"
What?
Because his username was Sigma Chi 87.
Nice.
It's good, right?
Well, what was
story.
a Sigmachi?
I have no idea. It was fucking better than us that night. I'll tell you what.
Oh, I have an answer.
Oh,
Croquembouche. That's what he was cooking.
That's what he was
okay.
cooking.
Fancy dessert consisting of a tower of profiteroles that's typically served at weddings, according to a fan fiction from Twitter.
I like tortillas better. If it's going to be fan fiction, let's go with tortillas.
Right? Yeah, I'm going to go with
That can be
tortillas.
your headcanon, right?
Yeah.
That could be your personal headcanon of what The Rock was cooking.
All right,
Maybe
I
at the end of the day, we're supposed to decide what The Rock was cooking.
yeah, it's
And that's why
metaphorical.
it's such an important question is, what do you want The Rock to be cooking?
Tortillas,
Apparently
obviously.
Tortillas. It's not.
The real thing The Rock was cooking was the friends we made along the way.
Also,
Oh, yeah.
elbows to the face. That was kind of the other thing he was cooking.
But mostly friends. He cooks a lot of friends.
Guy, what do you got for us?
I got notes. I was going to talk to you about magic, but whatever. It's fine.
I know you mean Magic the Gathering, but every time I hope you're talking about your recent forays into street magic.
To wizarding.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Sleight of hand tricks you've been learning.
I know like two card tricks, I guess.
Ooh.
I would be so happy if you invited a bunch of work friends over for magic, and then when they showed up, you just put on a magic show. Oh, I'd be so happy if I got to go to that. I'd volunteer to get sawed in half at your trick magic show that you lied to people about.
Well, it's the
Anyway.
greatest trick.
Is it?
It is.
Yeah. Let's see my notes. Oh yeah, when Saturn was talking about if I sound different, I'm sorry or whatever.
You know?
I just wrote down if I sound different, tough titties. Little did I
over
know that later you would be talking about titties, so I guess it worked
Right.
out.
Tough
These things
BMX
happen
Triple X
sometimes.
titties.
Yeah.
Which I assume they were because flying off of a bicycle with your titties out seems like a sure way to get road rash.
Yeah, that sounds like a bad day.
Just putting it out there. I assume they were all calloused and protected. That's the only correct
Sometimes
answer.
when people complain about their lives or whatever,
Uh-huh.
in little ways, I'd say like sucks to be you. Like
Yeah.
like if my kid forgets his lunch or whatever, and he's got to eat school lunch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sucks to be you. I found a new term that is way more offensive, and
Oh, no.
I'm enjoying it.
all right.
Wow.
It doesn't seem like it should be more offensive, but
Uh-huh.
sucks to suck,
Yeah.
Oh.
I say sucks to suck all the time.
right?
My favorite one is that sounds like a you problem. And I use that one on Courtney frequently, where she'll be like, "I'm hungry," and I'll be like, "That sounds like a you problem," even though it is explicitly a me problem. So maybe I'm projecting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the one cooking, I guess.
I always perpetually am. Earlier, I had to figure out what to make her for dinner because she said, "I don't know if it's ADD or what, but I'm starving. My stomach is growling, and the idea of eating anything is just horrible to me right now."
Oh.
And I don't know if you've ever had to make a meal for someone that was the state they were in, but it's really difficult to find something they want to eat when the very idea of putting food in their mouth is causing full-on executive dysfunction in their brain.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. She ate a protein shake.
Well, that would be something, I guess.
My argument was I would make it small and she could quickly get calories and protein in her body without being offended that food existed.
You know what? That's pretty fair. That's good thinking,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, that's a smart answer.
Anyway,
It's almost like
Well-
you've had experience in this.
it's almost like I've been doing it for 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's kinda-
Let's see. Aquafresh equals stripes. Crest equals blue sparkles.
Oh yeah. It was,
Oh, yeah, it
Aquafresh.
was Aquafina.
You remember the Blobby Crest mascot
Yeah.
No, what?
with the sunglasses?
Yeah.
Is his name Blobby?
No, he was
I
like
have
a
no
blob of
idea what his name
toothpaste.
was. He was just a blob of old toothpaste.
Yeah.
Huh. No, I don't. I don't.
I remember we had a little plastic version of him that came with some toothpaste one time.
Yeah, I feel like he was like the spiritual successor to the California Raisins.
I might be too young for this. I might have not been brushing my teeth whenever this was a thing.
Are you brushing your
Maybe.
teeth now?
Infrequently, but yes. Let's see.
Okay, well.
Crest mascot. Let's see what this guy looks
He's
like.
like a blue sparkle dude with sunglasses and a smile.
Yeah, I
God
would say
damn
it was
it,
the
not
early to
like
mid 90s.
That kind of crest.
So
Crest.
that would make sense that you didn't know it.
Toothpaste mascot. These are disturbing images.
He's got a little hair swirl made out of
This-
toothpaste.
I don't think this is what y'all are talking about. I'm gonna put it in the chat, but it's just a tube of toothpaste, and it's just got a weird, creepy face on
Yeah,
it.
that's not it.
Oh, I mean, that's.
Oh, is this? Hold on, I think I found it. Is this the
Yeah,
toothpaste?
that's the one.
Yeah, that's
He's
the
got
guy.
he's got like a bouffant and like
Yeah.
little sunglasses and little sparkly teeth.
Yeah, he's got friends too.
Yeah.
Oh, I see his friends in this other ad. Kids Crest, it'll make you rush to brush. The real cool taste that sparkles. Man, this is lame. Wow. And then I guess before that, this superhero team was the Crest mascot.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
okay.
man.
At some point. This
That's-
looks like 70s era.
That's aggressively
sold a,
70s, yeah.
They sold a telephone with that Crest mascot on it.
The blue guy with the bouffant?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, this is back in the era where they made telephones based on every mascot. So, you could always have whatever phone you wanted with whatever mascot celebrity you wanted. Or Garfield.
What the fuck were cavity creeps from? And why do I remember them?
That is... I think that was also Crest, but it was from the 70s.
It was a cartoon about brushing your teeth.
No, it was from a commercial, but Family Guy referenced it years later.
I
Yeah,
watched
it looks
a
like
cartoon.
it's from an episode of that superhero thing. There's like a minute-long YouTube video.
That must be what I watched then. Because I remember
Yes.
being a kid and watching something with people fighting teeth that had cavities in them.
Toothopolis and the Cavity Creeps.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I saw it on Family Guy that I was like, hey, that thing I remember. Although maybe it was just this 1 minute long commercial that I saw
Probably,
somewhere.
yeah.
Probably
feel like-
on the front of a VHS tape.
I think that was a lot of Family Guy's success, right? It's just,
Yeah.
that's the thing I
Hey,
remember.
that's that
it's
thing.
funny.
I hadn't seen Family Guy. I haven't seen Family Guy in years.
Mhm.
But I was just flipping channels the other night on just broadcast TV, and Family Guy was on. I was like, I'll watch an episode. I haven't seen this in a long time. We'll see what's happened to it. First of all, wow. I don't know if it's gotten bad or I've changed or both, but it was not fantastic.
Yeah.
And there were multiple cutaway gags that were just cutaway gags about the fact that they were random cutaway gags.
Sounds about right. But
It-
you have
it
to
was-
remember, the whole point of the cutaway gags was to be something nostalgic or an in-joke, and the show has been running long enough
I
that now the
guess.
show itself is what you can be nostalgic about.
It was just like there was one cutaway where the joke was that the characters in the cutaway didn't know why they were being cut away to.
Yeah.
They were like, why are we in this cutaway? What are we supposed to be doing? And the other one's like, I don't know. And like that was, but they did it several times.
Yeah.
And when you do it once, it's like, all right, that's kind of funny. But when you do it multiple times, you start to feel like maybe the writers didn't know what to put in the cutaway.
I don't remember what it was on. It was some interview with Seth MacFarlane back in the early 2000s where somebody asked him what his rule of comedy was, and he said, if you do something once, it's funny. If you do something twice, it's annoying. If you do something 3 times, it's boring. If you do something 4 times, it becomes funny again.
Yeah. No,
And-
that makes a lot of sense given his
Everything
comedy
that
styling.
he's done. Yes. And so now that I know that's what he's doing, I can see it happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when does he think this is getting funny again yet?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with the idea that there is a funny arc,
Yeah.
but I do disagree where he chooses to stop that bus a lot of
Yeah,
the time.
right.
You know, where it's like, no, I see what you're doing, but you know,
Sometimes it feels like he slams the bus into a wall over and over again.
yeah. Hi, guy.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome to your segment for you.
Yeah.
Only
So you were going to tell us
you-
about Magic and Hearthstone,
cavity
right?
creeps. Oh yeah, your thing.
I was, but no, we're good. I still have notes. In 97, I had like 20 channels.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I had-
Yeah,
had-
it's about how many I had.
So,
We
you know,
had,
Saturn's describing cable channels that I had no idea existed.
we
Yeah.
had basic cable. It was stolen. and we had 36 total channels, but 5 or 6 of them were scrambled because we didn't pay for them, and at least 3 or 4 of them were public access channels or weather channels or whatever, so they didn't count.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think 20 is probably about right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fair.
let's
I
see.
just
What did I
for a
have?
minute I thought maybe you just lived in a bougie place with like
No,
a
no, my
set-top
neighbors-
box.
My neighbors had satellite, and they had like 100-something channels, and we thought it was crazy. But no,
I
only
had
a few.
2, 4, 8, 11, 13, 21, 27, 33, 54, and 59.
And
Those
39.
were the channels I had. Do what?
39.
Were you counting, or are you saying channel 39?
Yeah, 39 was always a channel.
I didn't have 39.
How?
I had 33.
He lived in Fort Worth. It didn't
I was
come
in
in
Fort
very
Worth.
well.
I was in far
It's
west side.
It's a Fort Worth channel.
Really?
What channel is it?
39.
What is the name of the network?
It
It's
didn't
not a
have a name.
network,
It was an
really.
independent one.
Yeah.
Well, now
I
it
don't
is.
remember
Now
channel
it's
39.
Now it's Telemundo, but back then it was Texas 39.
Was it in English?
Yeah, it's broadcast out of Fort Worth too.
I guess like Telemundo.
Yeah, now it's Telemundo, but back then.
KXTX.
Yep.
Licensed
Oh,
to
yeah.
Dallas, serving Dallas, Fort Worth. I don't remember.
They used to show a
What
bunch
year
of
did it
syndicated
become
shows.
Telemundo?
2005-ish,
All right.
maybe.
Let's see. It was independent January or six.
It was the WB network back in '95
Oh,
before
yeah.
WB
okay.
moved to 33.
WB was 33 for me.
yeah. After '95, WB was 33. So yeah, it was until 2001 they were still independent. 2001 is when they became Telemundo.
I do not remember a 39.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah,
not.
when I was really little, they mostly showed westerns, but then
Maybe that's why I don't remember. Maybe I just didn't ever watch it. I didn't
eventually
like
they started
Westerns.
showing some more like sitcoms and game shows and shit.
And I'm looking at the logo, the old 39 logo from
yeah.
used from 95 2001.
Yeah.
This looks not familiar to me whatsoever. I guess it's possible I just happened to live in a town that we didn't get it. I did
doubt
live
it.
in a town with massive grain towers in it, so maybe or maybe I just don't remember it. I don't know.
That'd be weird.
Let's see. They had newscasts, syndicated Bill Nye the Science Guy. I never watched Bill Nye growing up. I always watched Beakman's World. I'm looking for the show that, like, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I definitely watched that, so I must have seen it, but I'm not seeing anything. Nope. No idea.
Yeah, I would occasionally turn over to it for like some syndicated sitcom or something, but that was about it. It was one of my least watched channels.
I remember whichever 50 channel had Married with Children, I watched that all the time. I think it was like 59 or something.
54.
50 something. Is it 54?
Or 52.
All right,
It was 52 back then.
whichever one it was, I
Yeah.
watched that channel a lot. That channel had good stuff.
When 39 stopped being independent, a lot of the shows that were on 39 moved to 52. And
Yeah.
now 52 is also a Spanish language channel.
Huh. What do you know? Yeah, it's Mundo.
Yeah. Mundos,
Oh.
which
I
is
see.
Telemundo 2.
Let's see. Yeah, I watched that channel a lot. I remember they would show martial arts movies sometimes late at night on the weekends. And so I would watch those. I was very excited. It was rebranded as Mundo Max after 21st Century Fox sold its stake in the network to RCN. TV networks are weird.
Yep.
They're so weird. I mean, I guess they're not any weirder than fucking streaming networks, but
True.
still, it's just weird.
What other
It airs-
notes did you have?
Yeah, what'd you have?
Oh, yeah, I got one more note. The Yeti is responsible for Justin's current scary stance vis-a-vis video games.
Hey, he will
Maybe.
not play scary video games because of Ski Free.
Yeah, the first horror game I ever played was Ski Free, and it scared the shit out of me. You guys weren't scared by the Yeti?
No.
I'm not joking here. He scared the shit out of you. He was scary. You're just enjoying skiing, and then a fucking Yeti comes out and carries you off into the woods.
Right, but it's not like a real Yeti.
It's like
I know,
And it-
I know it's
goofy
not a
stick
real
figure
Yeti,
Yeti.
guy.
And it doesn't
it's not
ca-
all stick.
It doesn't carry
has
you
like a
off
big
in the
round
woods. It
belly.
just murders you. What?
Yeah, it eats you.
It's awful. Scary. I remember I played it on my mom's boss's computer she'd have to take me up to work with her a lot because we couldn't afford daycare, and so I would go from school to her work and sit there till she got off work, and I would go in her boss's office. He was never there, and I would play fucking Ski Free, and I remember like sitting in his dark office at the back end of the hallway at this carpet cleaning company at his big wooden desk with his big leather desk pad and playing Ski Free, and the Yeti would jump out, and I'd like shit myself. It's terrifying. It's a very scary memory for me.
I just posted a picture of the Yeti in our chat, so you might not want to look.
All right, let me see. Let me look at this. Let me see if I have weird. Yeah, look, there's fucking teeth on him. God. Big yellow fucking teeth and the red eyes. He's got the angry eyebrows.
Oh, it's a stick figure, man.
It's not a stick figure. He has stick arms and legs, but he is a full-bodied Yeti with terrible yellow fangs and red glowing eyes.
Those aren't fangs. They're just buck teeth.
They're fangs, all right. The graphics can't properly convey the fang-like nature of them, but this thing is... No, this does kind of give me a little bit of fear. I can feel it. It's scary. I don't like that.
All right, I'm gonna.
This is amazing. Well, I mean, to be fair, I also don't like looking at the trolls in Ernest Scared Stupid or Troll.
Oh, yeah, he was pretty creepy too. That movie was pretty creepy when I was a kid.
Yeah, that movie scared me real bad. Oh, he deleted it. That's sweet.
Yeah, I didn't want to scare Justin.
I still I watched Tales from the Crypt still because I have it on DVD, and the Crypt Keeper still kind of creeps me out kind of bad.
Oh, I love the Crypt Keeper.
No, I love him too. He's great. Still kind of scares me. When I was a kid, he scared me very bad, and I had recurring nightmares about the Crypt Keeper.
There was a lot on that show that did scare me when I was a kid, but the Crypt Keeper was the one part that I really enjoyed. I thought he was a goofy Muppet.
Watching it as an adult, in retrospect, he's really ridiculous and stupid. Yeah. But as a kid, he was such a good puppet. Just scared the fucking shit out of me. I still remember the recurring nightmare I had with the Crypt Keeper, and it was me, and I'd be laying in bed. And you know how at the end of the title...
He's just standing there making puns at you?
No, at the end of the title sequence, he like flings up into frame.
Yeah.
And I'm laying there in bed, and I'm just kind of like in bed doing whatever, and I'm feeling kind of creeped out. And then all of a sudden, he springs up just like in the title sequence from like the end of my bed.
Yeah.
With his little screamy laugh thing. And that was it. That was the nightmare. I had it 100,000 times. I still occasionally, as an adult, will have it.
Man.
So watching Tales from the Crypt, he still kind of gets me a little bit. I'm still kind of like, ugh. Also, the weird rhino cloud thing from James and the Giant Peach.
Didn't ever watch that.
Yeah, I didn't
I
watch
read the
that
book
movie.
when I was in school.
So anyway, those are the things I'm scared of most, and they're weird.
Thanks for sharing. Happy Thanksgiving.
Guy, what are you scared of the most?
What else you got, Guy?
I don't know. That's really about it, I guess. The one thing I was going to talk about Hearthstone and Magic. Just in general, y'all were talking about, I guess, YouTube people at some point.
Yeah, today in the chat we were.
Yeah, okay, that's when it was. And you know, making a living, et cetera, and that got me to thinking about YouTube, like game channels and toxicity and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like games where you have the least direct contact, like you were saying stickers as a joke earlier, right? Is the only way you can communicate. Are the ones that create the least toxic cultures.
Because they can't properly say words.
Right. Like if you can type to somebody or speak to them on a mic anonymously, like those are awful cultures. But like all the Magic YouTubers, for example, that I watch, and maybe it's just me and the way that I filtered my content.
Yeah.
Are all very like PG, I guess is the best way to put it. You know, they're making content for a broad audience.
They're not talking about cummies and tummies.
I wonder how much that has to do with specifically because you're watching the Magic computer game content. What's it called?
Arena.
You're watching arena content, and I, as someone who at various points in my life was very into Magic the Gathering, never watched arena content. I watched regular Magic the Gathering content, paper Magic content.
Yeah.
And it was always extremely toxic. And so that could also just be how I was filtering my content. But I do wonder how much of it is just that Arena is built for streaming, and streaming has to meet certain guidelines, and there's concern of like community content and things like that of these people in these very streaming forward aspects of the Magic the Gathering hobby, which, kind of wonder how much of that is.
Yeah, that's all I got. I was thinking about that, and I thought that y'all would have some interesting commentary on that.
Because like in paper, Magic is considered like the toxic game. Like it is.
Yeah.
It is very much like, oh, Magic is the game played by assholes. Now, granted, there's a lot of people that aren't assholes that play Magic because it's just a very popular game. But if you're going to a game store and you're running into assholes, bet you they were there to play Magic, which is kind of I'm not saying it's justified, but it's the reputation the game has in paper anyway. And I know lots of people have had wonderful experiences at their stores playing Magic, and that's great, and I'm glad that they get to have that. But the worst, most offensive, most hateful experiences I've ever had at game stores, and I've had a lot of them over a lot of years at a lot of stores, 100% of them were centered around Magic the Gathering. So I take it back. Not 100%, because that one guy made fun of us at one time because we shared dice, and that was pretty mean because we were children. But beyond that, yeah. Guy, thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Good night.
Bye.
Please don't send me pictures of the ski-free Yeti. Bye.